is Monday, July 20, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Elena Rossi, and I'm here to ensure nobody forgets the insurance forms while they're chasing the clouds.
This is Jules Sterling.
Dan Miller here.
And I'm Buck Reynolds. We have a great show for you today.
Yesterday we really hammered home that diesel crisis and the USMCA annual review cycle. But today the focus is actually shifting toward internal restructuring and the actual hardware in the warehouse.
Look, we're moving from macroeconomic threats to the moves being made right in the C-suite and on the terminal floors. Bottom line, it's about survival.
I mean, the road is getting tighter by the day, Dan. Whether it's the cost of a gallon or the cost of a claim, nobody is getting a free pass this week.
It's sort of a fascinating day, right? We're seeing companies like ArcBest really streamline their identity, which, well, it impacts every relationship on the books.
Actually, let's start with that shift in the physical world. Gartner just dropped their 2026 supply chain tech report, and the big buzzword is the physical edge.
I mean, I've been seeing this in my retail accounts. Shippers aren't just looking for another dashboard, they're looking for machines that actually have some, agency, right?
Agentic systems? It's the new play. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang is basically calling physical AI the next industrial revolution. It's IoT sensors and edge computing actually making moves on the floor.
Well, my thing is that 93% of manufacturers already have these systems, but the Rockwell automation data says the integration is still a mess. It's like having a high-tech car with no steering wheel.
Or a rookie driver with a GPS and no map sense. If the machine can't talk to the warehouse management system, you're just moving boxes in a circle faster.
But look, the hardware is catching up. We're talking about polyfunctional robots now, not just an arm that picks one thing. These things switch from sorting to palletizing in Q3 without a hardware swap.
I suppose that's fine until one of those polyfunctional arms decides it doesn't recognize a human supervisor as a safety barrier. I've seen the indemnity reports on autonomous agency.
Right, but the goal is to bridge that human-machine gap, not replace us, Elena. Fujitsu and Kawasaki are building these systems to think alongside people. It's more of a partnership model, sort of.
It's high-stakes chess, Elena. If you don't have robots that can pivot as fast as the market, you're left with a warehouse full of paperweights, while your competitors are fulfilling orders in half the time.
The thing is, you still need a guy who knows when a bearing is about to blow. I don't care how much physical AI you have, machines don't smell grease.
You're not wrong, Buck. But speaking of shifting the physical footprint, ArcBest is making some pretty drastic moves to their terminal network.
This is the one ArcBest play. They announced it late last week, but it officially kicks off August 1st. Bottom line, they're cutting 280 jobs and closing 10 terminals.
It's sort of a brand consolidation too, right? They're retiring the Molo and Panther names. Everything is moving under the ArcBest banner to simplify the experience.
Precisely. They're folding those asset-light brands into the mothership. It's about optimizing the network doors. 10 terminals in smaller markets are being rolled into larger centers to build density.
If I may, they're calling it efficiency. But ABF is a union carrier. They had to go through a change of operations under the National Master Freight Agreement. The Teamsters are watching this very closely.
They always are. You close a terminal, you're moving seniority lists and messing with guys' commutes. It's a 2% workforce reduction, mostly non-driver roles, but 60 of those cuts are in Fort Smith.
Well, it's about being more precision-driven, right? When the LTL market tightens, you can't have a fragmented brand identity. Customers want one point of contact, not 3 different business units.
Exactly. It's like a roster trade mid-season. They're getting leaner. Molo was a massive brokerage play, and Panther was the expedite king. Now, it's all just ArcBest. The market likes the simplicity.
I mean, the market might like it, but I suppose the risk managers are wondering how that brand dilution affects cargo liability. If you're using a Molo broker, but the contract says ArcBest, it gets messy.
I mean, that's where my desk comes in, Elena. We translate that mess for the VP of supply chain. It's about making it feel like a new opportunity instead of a layoff.
Hey, before we move on to this SCOTUS trade ruling, I actually need to mention the engine behind this whole operation.
You mean the servers back there, humming like a reefer unit?
Sort of. This show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering, and he's the architect. Support the code by visiting our Patreon at patreon.com/Neural Network Media. You can get a free trial and even grab our daily briefing PDF. It's the real playbook.
Actually, I use that briefing to prep for our claims meetings. It's precision work. Now, switching gears. Let's talk about why the administration's tariff strategy just hit a massive legal wall.
Is this that Supreme Court deal? I heard the border rates were dropping like a stone.
Well, yes. In Learning Resources, Inc. v. Trump, the court ruled 6-3 that the IEEPA, that's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, doesn't let the president just hike tariffs to raise revenue.
Right. So those Liberation Day tariffs from 2025 are just gone? That's a huge shift for my cross-border clients.
Correct. As of late February, those IEEPA-based tariffs were terminated. National averages dropped from about 10% down to 6.7%. It's a huge relief for anyone bringing in manufacturing components from overseas.
But look, the uncertainty is still the play here. Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs are still active. National security and trade acts haven't been touched by this ruling.
The thing is, the USMCA renewal is still in rolling talks, right? They didn't just rubber stamp it on July 1st. It's creating a whole lot of anxiety for the guys hauling up from Mexico.
Exactly. And while the court curbed executive power, companies aren't waiting for the government to play fair. Look at Hankook Tire. They're doubling down on their Tennessee plant.
A $1.6 billion expansion, right? They're moving toward onshoring critical components just to insulate themselves from these geopolitical shocks. It's smart.
It's the only play. If you're reliant on a boat from a country that might get slapped with a 20% surcharge tomorrow, you're dead in the water. You build it in Tennessee, you own the fate of your supply chain.
Well, and I suppose it's a compliance win, too. Fewer border crossings mean fewer chances for a cargo claim or a seizure. Physical resilience is the new indemnity.
I mean, I just like seeing more tires made here. Makes it easier to find replacements when you're stuck in a terminal in Memphis.
Speaking of Memphis and being stuck, look at who's taken the reins in the boardroom lately. Fast Freight Group just hired Dave Airy as their new CIO today.
Dave Airy? He's not a trucking guy, right? He came from Canadian Tire and Lactalis. Big retail and telecom background.
Exactly. He's a tech-heavy hitter. Fast Freight is going aggressive. They just bought Omnitrans back in April, and now they want AI and data science at the center of the plate.
Actually, my concern is that hiring a retail IT guy into a logistics firm often leads to digital theater. You get fancy apps, but the core freight forwarding data remains siloed.
Well, the thing is, Venti Technologies is doing the opposite. They just put a top BNSF executive on their board. That's bridging big rail with deep tech for autonomous terminal moves.
It's the right play. Venti is focusing on terminal operations, yard dogs, and autonomous movers. You need that BNSF institutional knowledge to make it work in a real-world rail yard.
It's sort of a pivot toward ROI, right? The industry is done with AI hype. They want leadership that can prove the tech actually moves more containers per hour.
Bottom line, The boardroom is being rebuilt for a digital-first world. If you're still leading with a paper ledger, you're irrelevant.
All right, look, it's time for Diesel Dispatch, our Monday segment where we check the pulse of the pump and see how much the world is bleeding the carriers this week.
And here's the play, Buck. The national retail average for diesel just hit $4.79 per gallon. Some trackers are already showing a $5 handle in major hubs.
I mean, that's a 22-cent jump in a single week. That is the biggest spike I've seen since the 22 volatility. It is an absolute gut punch for the owner-operators.
You see, it's not just a crude oil story this time. The 3-2-1 crack spread, the profit margin for refiners, just hit $70 a barrel. The refiners are making record bank while the trucks sit idle.
Precisely. Russian export bans on distillates and the mess in the Strait of Hormuz have created a refining bottleneck. Crude is around $90, but the pump doesn't care.
The thing is, the Strait of Hormuz is at a standstill. U.S. strikes on Iranian port infrastructure have the market terrified of a blockade. That's 14 million barrels of crude a day potentially shut in.
Right, and shippers are feeling the inflation boomerang. LTL fuel surcharges are hitting 26% this week. If you didn't lock in contract capacity in Q1, your budget is basically incinerated.
It's a total paradox. Spot rates were starting to stabilize, and now this 22-cent jump triggers an immediate LTL spike. Shippers are pivoting to rail just for basic P&L survival.
Actually, Pad 1A, New England, is even worse. Irving Oil's St. John refinery went into a maintenance turnaround. Distillate inventories in the Northeast are 12% below the 5-year average.
12%! I mean, we are staring down a distillate drought. If you're running the I-95 corridor, you're paying a 40-cent premium over the national average. It's $5.20 in Jersey right now.
Look, this is a capacity risk. We're seeing a flight to J.B. Hunt and the intermodal players. Shippers would rather wait for a train than pay a 51-cent per mile fuel surcharge for a truckload.
It's sort of a survival test, right? For a small fleet like Herb Pounder out of LA, who's seeing $6.12 diesel, this isn't just a margin squeeze. It's an emergency.
Exactly. You didn't have a fuel surcharge locked in? You're bleeding out today. You got to be an accountant first and a driver second to survive this kind of jump.
Well, my thing is that this risk premium is the new baseline. You can't just outdrive a geopolitical blockade. You have to be hedged, or you have to have the most efficient routing on the planet.
Bottom line, diesel is a structural tax on the entire supply chain right now. Until those distillate inventories get rebuilt, we are in a war premium market.
I mean, that's Diesel Dispatch for this week. And folks, keep your tanks full and your eyes on the news. It's gonna be a bumpy one.
That does it for us today on the high road. We tracked the physical edge of AI, the thinning of the ArcBest herd, and that 22-cent diesel spike that's redefining Q3 budgets.
Bye.
Later.
Peace.
Don't forget, complacency is the precursor to catastrophe. Stay safe out there.